Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Jacob Teacher YouTube channel. Today we are going to talk about fire. I'm very excited about this lesson. It's going to be a little different from my normal live lessons on this page in the sense that I'm going to do a lot of talking at first. So there will be quite a long lecture to begin this live lesson. There are a lot of things to say about fire. I'm going to talk about fire symbolically and just fire in general. I think that it will be interesting for one. I think that I've put together an interesting lesson for you. And I also think that doing this will give you a nice background to approach new words in the English language that use, new phrases in the English language that use the word fire. So there will be a lot of talking at first. There's also going to be plenty of opportunities later in the lesson for you to practice your English. We're going to learn some new phrasal verbs and some new idioms, or one new idiom rather. But let's begin by talking about fire. Looks like Satawat is joining us. Hello, Satawat. Hale is with us. Hello to you too. Hello to everyone watching. By the way, while I'm talking, while I'm lecturing for the first part of this lesson, if there's something I say that confuses you, if there's something you're confused about, just leave a question in the comment section and I will try to address it later. Also, while I'm speaking, I want you to think about the ideas that I'm talking about in your own language. Sorry, what I mean by that is to think about how these ideas that I'm talking about are expressed in your own language, okay? Think about how they are expressed in your mother tongue. I think that you will find some similarities between English and your native language probably. Gofrain is with us. Hello, Gofrain. And Mai, hello to you too. Looks like we have some regulars and some new people here too, so that's great. Hello everyone, I'm going to change my screen now and start the lecture. Again, stay with me. I'm going to be talking for a little while now. Write your questions in the comment section and afterwards we will all practice together. So let's start by talking about fire. Now, fire, of course, is very, very important on many levels, in many areas of life. For one, in human development, so humans started cooking with fire almost 2 million years ago. That's a long time, and that was very important in our development because cooking with fire, what it does is it kills bacteria in food. When you cook with fire, it kills the bacteria in that raw food, so it makes it safer to eat. It makes the food easier to digest, too. When you cook food, it makes it easier to digest. And it makes more food available to us. So food that otherwise would have been dangerous to eat raw, we could now eat it because it was cooked using fire. So we had more food available to us once we started using fire to cook. So of course this was huge in our development. It really played a large role in human evolution. We also see fire talked about a lot in religion. Now, my knowledge of religion isn't so great, to be completely honest with you, but one famous story from the Bible involves Moses and the burning bush. You see, I have a picture of that here. Moses standing in front of this burning bush. And what this burning bush is God speaking to Moses, right? So there are many instances in the Bible when we see fire, and what the fire represents is the presence of God on earth. So God is on earth speaking to people. God is around when fire is around. He's around when fire is there. So in religion, often fire equals the presence of God. Very important in biblical stories. Now, we also see in religion, of course, fire plays a large role in hell. When we think of hell, we imagine it as a place where there's fire everywhere. There's fire all around in hell. And of course, when we're thinking about hell, what we're thinking about is punishment, right? So there's an association between hell and punishment. If you behave badly on earth, you're punished by God and you're sent to hell. This fiery place where there's lots of pain. Of course, fire, being burned, is one of the most painful things for a human. It's supposed to be the most painful way to die. So there is a lot of fire. When you think of hell, there's an aspect of punishment to it and pain, destruction, okay? There's also moments in religion when God's anger is revealed in fire, okay? So he actually sends fires to earth to punish people. So we see this idea of fire as a destructive force. At times when God is angry, and we see it in hell, a place where there's fire everywhere, fire that is supposed to harm people, right? Punish people. In nature, let's think about forest fires. Now, forest fires are quite interesting because they cause a lot of problems for people, right? Especially when the fires come close to our societies. But forest fires, speaking of in strictly natural terms, they are good for the forest. They're actually part of the natural life cycle of a forest, right? So what happens is a forest grows really, really big and dense. There's lots of undergrowth happening, and when forest fires come through, they clean out all of that undergrowth, and they allow for sunlight to come back into the forest. The fires cause a lot of nutrients to be released into the soil. So there's this idea of rebirth with fire when we're talking about forest fires. A fire comes, it burns everything, and then there's rebirth. Okay, a new forest grows. It's part of the natural life cycle. So again, there's this idea of destruction, the power of fire as a destructive force, and then the idea of rebirth. Let's move on to love. We often hear fire talked about when we are talking about love. We hear it used to describe love, especially passionate romantic love at the early stages. So when you first meet someone, they kind of consume you like a fire. When you first fall in love with someone, the first 6 months of a romantic relationship, maybe, you can describe it as someone. It's as if you caught fire. This person that you fell in love with, they consume your thoughts. You can't sleep. There's really a madness about it that kind of spreads like a fire. Now, some of you may know Bruce Lee. He once said that love is like a friendship caught on fire. Love is like a friendship caught on fire. There's more to this quote. I left it out on purpose because I wanted to, there's some difficult language in there. But what he's talking about is the stages of love. So in the beginning, when you first meet someone, love is like a violent fire spreading everywhere. It's chaotic, it's messy, it's very hot, and can be dangerous sometimes too. It's very fiery. And then as you grow, as your relationship grows and becomes more mature, love turns into a fire that looks more like these coals over here. So it's still very hot, but it's less chaotic and violent. It's more mature and steady I guess you could put it that way. Okay, and there's more of a constant heat to it rather than a flame that's blowing in the wind everywhere. It's more mature. There's also love. In love, passion can become destructive, and we can talk about this idea of fire becoming destructive again in love, right? When we're talking about love. So there's a song that was written by Eminem. I know I talk about Eminem a lot on this channel, but his song works really well with what I'm talking about right now. He wrote a song called Love the Way You Lie. It was one of his most popular songs in the last 10 years, I would say. And what this song is about is all about an abusive relationship. So a situation in which love becomes toxic and destructive. And what's really interesting, if you watch the music video for this song, in the music video there is a couple. And this couple, throughout the music video, they're fighting violently, then they're having rough makeup sex, so they're making up and coming back together, and then when things seem okay, they start fighting violently again, and it's really not a healthy relationship. In the background of this video, there is a fire that's growing and growing and growing, and eventually, by the end of the video, this is a scene from the end of the video, the whole house is burning down. So it's this idea of passionate romantic love, that fire growing too big and burning everything down, a destructive force like that. One more thing that I want to talk about before we start looking at how the actual language is used. Some of you may be familiar with this. This is Amazon's Kindle. So this is a highly popular product. I don't have one myself, but I'd like to get one. I've heard that they are quite nice to have. But what's interesting here is I want to look at the word Kindle. Now, Kindle Kindle is a verb, and it means to light on fire. So an example sentence, we kindled a fire at the campsite. At the campsite, we kindled a fire. We lit a fire. Literally, we started a fire. There's also another part to this verb, though. So it can mean to arouse or inspire or excite someone. So in the example sentence I have here, his friends helped kindle his passion for music. So his friends helped inspire his passion for music. Again, you can think about a small fire being born here. Suddenly he has a passion for music. A fire has started. They helped kindle his passion for music. Now, this is something that the people at Amazon, the person who named this product, was very aware of. He was really aware of the language and knew what he was doing with this word. He actually, when he was trying to name his product, he thought of the word Kindle, and he traced it back. Well, he found a quote from the French philosopher and writer Voltaire, who once said, "The instruction we find in books is like fire. We fetch it from our neighbors." Fetch just means take. "We fetch it from our neighbors, kindle it at home, communicate it to others, and it becomes the property of all." So, again, I want you to think of something else that fires do. What does a fire do? Well, it provides light. And you can think of knowledge as light, too. Fire allows you to see things that you didn't see before because there's light now. It provides that light. Knowledge is kind of similar when you think about it. When you learn something new, it's as if a fire is going off. You can see things that you couldn't see before. And again, he's talking about this idea of fire, that knowledge spreading around, growing with other people. As more people share knowledge, the fire becomes bigger until everyone has it. So this is what I wanted to start the lesson with. And I'll ask you a question now because I was talking a lot. Thanks for staying with me if you did. What English phrases do you know that use the word fire? Now, while you're answering, I hope you can see how many different ideas can be traced back to fire. It's such a huge concept, and you can think about it on so many different levels. So I'm interested to hear what you have to think about all of this, and about what English phrases you know that use the word fire. Okay, Youngmi Park is with us. Hello, Youngmi Park. Desiree, hello. Sam says hello. How have you been up to? Sam, we wouldn't really say how have you been up to, but you would say how have you been or what have you been up to. And I have been good. I've been up to a lot of things. It's kind of a chaotic time in my life. I'm moving back to Canada in less than 3 weeks now, so on the 21st of August, I fly out of Korea back to Canada. So tell me anything, what phrases, what English words do you know? Any phrasal verbs or idioms that use the word fire? I'm going to tell you about one example that I have, and we will continue from there. Some of you may know this man, Donald Trump. Now, before Mr. Trump was president of the United States, he was on a show called The Apprentice. The Apprentice. And he became famous on The Apprentice for this one line. It was kind of the tagline of the show. He'd look at people. The premise of the show was people were in charge of starting their own business and trying to make money or taking control of different areas of a business. And Donald Trump was the main boss in charge. So eventually, when people weren't performing well, he would look at them and he'd point and say, "You're fired." So fired, the word fired means to lose a job, right? So if you misbehave at work and your boss doesn't like that, he doesn't want you to work for the company anymore, he could say, "You're fired." If you're fired, you lose your job. You're no longer wanted as an employee. On fire, says Mai. Good. Mai says on fire. So on fire, actually you hear this term a lot in sports. On fire, let's imagine a basketball player who keeps successfully making shots in a basketball game. You could say that that person is on fire. They're on a good streak. Put fire under something. Okay, so Satawat first says put something under fire, right? If you are under fire, this could mean you're literally being fired at with a gun. So imagine in a war, if one group of soldiers is under fire, it means that someone else is shooting at them. It can also mean if people are upset at you and they're criticizing you for something you did, you could say you're under fire. So that's what that means. Fight fire with fire, says Anton. Good. You guys know a lot of different idioms. This is great. To fight fire with fire means to be aggressive back. So you can think of if someone's firing and being really violent and aggressive towards you, you're aggressive back. So you're fighting fire with fire. Sam, we're going to talk about that idiom later. That's the idiom I want to teach you all tonight. Okay? Let's go back to this word, you're fired. So fired means to lose a job. Here are some example sentences. I had to fire Mandy because she kept coming in late to work. I was fired because I swore at my boss. So again, this simply means to lose one's job, to no longer be wanted as an employee. So here's a question that you can answer. Have you ever been fired from a job? And what was the reason, if you feel like sharing? Or Has one of your friends been fired from a job, or anyone you know? And what was the reason for that as well? Tell me in the comment section. Again, I want you to think about the ideas that we talked about before, too. So when someone's fired from work, that's a very destructive force, right? It's something destructive. Your boss is firing you, okay? They're destroying you, really. They're not allowing you to work for this company anymore. And in many cases, being fired from a job really does destroy people, especially if you're someone who feels like your job is a big part of your identity and someone fires you. That kind of thing can destroy you, like a fire can. So it's an interesting word to use here. Also, there's something, think about when I talked about forest fires and that idea of rebirth. There's an aspect of that here too. When you fire someone, you clear space for someone else to come in to the company and start working for you as a new employee. So there's this cycle of destruction and rebirth. And I think it's an interesting word in that sense to use here. Fired, asks Sam, does it mean getting angry? We're going to talk about a phrasal verb using fired that can mean getting angry. But to be fired, no, we only use it in the sense of losing one's job. So like in the example sentences I used, I got fired because I was coming in to work late, right? I lost my job. My boss said, you can't work here anymore. You're fired, right? Out of the frying pan into fire, says Halle. Great, that's a good one. Okay, let's keep going. I have some more questions and sentences for you to practice with later, but let's look at some phrasal verbs. So Sam, this is what I was talking about. Fire up. Fire up, the phrasal verb, means inspire someone with enthusiasm, passion, or motivation. Sometimes anger, too. So she fired up the crowd with her speech. What that means is she spoke to the crowd, and that crowd became really enthusiastic and motivated. And again, this doesn't always have, this can be positive and negative too, and often it's negative, so it's both. It depends on the context, like many things in English. So she fired up the crowd with her speech. That could mean that when she spoke to the crowd, they became really excited in a good way, in a positive way, or it could mean they became really angry and maybe violently angry. Who knows? It depends on the context. Fire off. Fire off is when you write or say something really quickly, usually with anger. So let's imagine I'm really angry at my boss, and I'm writing an email, and I'm angry, so I do it quickly, and I say bad things maybe in this email. I could say, I fired off an angry email to my boss. I fired off. Complete the sentence. I fired off an angry text to my boyfriend after. So what I'm looking for here, one way to answer this, to complete this sentence, you could say, I fired off an angry text to my boyfriend after he said something mean to me. Something like that, you could say. After he stole my car. Hopefully your boyfriend never steals your car. That would be terrible, obviously. A sign of an unhealthy relationship. Okay. Very interesting reference, says Youngmi Park. I'm glad that you're finding these references interesting. Mai says, one of my college was fired, so one of your friends from college, I think you're saying, was fired last year due to drinking alcohol at work. That was the second time breaking company rule. He was warned when he got drunk for the first time during working hours. Oh no, well, it sounds like the company had no choice but to fire him. Here's how you could say that a little more naturally, Mai. One of my friends from college was fired last year due to drinking alcohol at work. That's okay. You could say that was his second time. I'm assuming it's a yes, right? You say he later. That was his second time breaking company rules. He was warned when he got drunk the first time during work hours. You could say it that way. Sam says, my friend's been fired because he had been skipping the classes for a month. Okay, so Sam, you want to say my friend was fired. My friend was fired in the past. Simple past is better there. Because he had been skipping classes for months. Good. The second half of that sentence is almost completely correct. Set fire, says Youngmi Park. Okay, I fired off an angry text to my boyfriend after he broke up with me, says Sam. Youngmi Park, if you're talking about the sentence here, set fire to what? When you set fire, you have to set fire to something. So because he set fire to my house, he set fire to my car, he set fire to my bed, my couch, whatever. Sam, that's a great sentence. He broke up with me. That's a good one. Okay, so I'm going to continue going forward with the lesson. I only have one more idiom that we're going to talk about. But again, before I do, let's look at these phrasal verbs in terms or while remembering what we talked about before. Okay, fire off. When we fire something off, we do it very quickly and often angrily too, right? So imagine, again, it's as if a fire comes through us, a quick, burning, destructive fire, and we say something mean or bad, whatever. So again, this image of fire coming through us, I think, is helpful to think about. Okay, let's keep going. I believe this was Sam who spoke about this idiom. It's a really great idiom. I like it a lot. To pour gas on the fire or to add fuel to the fire. This is a very visual idiom. It makes us picture a situation. So gas, of course, gasoline, what we put in our cars. If you pour that onto a flame, onto a fire, what happens? The fire grows bigger, very violently too. So, what this idiom means is to make a bad situation worse. Imagine there's already a fire. Imagine someone's angry, and you pour gasoline onto that fire. The fire grows, or their anger grows. The example sentence I have, he tried to calm her down. Calm her down means make her relax. He tried to calm her down, but he only managed to pour gas on the fire. Again, to add fuel to the fire, to pour gas on the fire, they're the same thing. People use both. It means the exact same thing. He only managed to pour gas on the fire. What that means is he only made her more angry. Okay? Let's complete the story here. This looks like a big, long paragraph, but it's quite easy. And I'm looking forward to your responses here. Yesterday, I got in an argument with my mom. She's always so impatient with people. We went to the grocery store, and she was so rude to one of the workers. I told her that I don't think she treats other people very well, and she got really mad. Later, at dinner, I think I added fuel to the fire when I... blah, 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 blah. Finish the story. Tell me what this person did. How did they add fuel to the fire? How did they make their mom more angry? Okay. Halea says, you remind me of the song I Set Fire to the Rain by Adele. I actually don't know that song, but that's an interesting idea, to set fire to rain. Of course, we can talk about water I might do a lesson on water too, because there are many different ideas associated with water in literature, religion, everything, right? So there's and it's reflected in language the same. I'm curious to know what that song is about, so I'll listen to it after. I always think it's nice too when you can find these connections with language and other kinds of ideas to see how language represents certain ideas. But I'm curious to know, how does this story end? So one thing that could happen, later at dinner, I think I added fuel to the fire when I broke one of the plates we were eating with, okay? Or later at dinner, I think I added fuel to the fire when I swore at her. Okay, we have a great sentence from Anton. I added fuel to the fire when I told her she didn't treat her children very well either. Yes, that is something that I think most mothers would get very angry about. If someone says, you're not a good mother, you don't treat your children very well, I imagine that would, that would make many mothers angry. So that's a good one. By the way, if you're new here, if you're enjoying this lesson, if you're enjoying my work, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you're enjoying this lesson, give me a thumbs up. It helps me a lot. It tells YouTube that I'm making okay videos, at least. So that would help. Great sentence, Anton. Thank you for that. It looks like the comment section is a little quiet tonight. That's okay. There was a lot of talking in this lesson, I know, but I hope that you found these phrasal verbs and idioms helpful, especially within the context of everything else we talked about. So I think whenever you hear a new phrasal verb or a new idiom involving fire, I think that thinking about these ideas, thinking about what fire actually is, can help you understand that. Mai says, when I didn't finish my dinner. Perfect. So maybe the mother cooked a big dinner, and maybe this person kind of insulted her by not finishing the dinner. Okay, that's great. Sam says, when I told my mother was rude when treating others. Okay. Yeah, you could say that, but you can think of that as, okay, so we used the word kindle before. So you can think of earlier in this story when this person told her mother that she doesn't treat other people very well. You can think of that as kind of the kindle. That kindled the fire, right? It started the argument. It caused her mom to be angry. So later at dinner, this person did something else to pour fuel on the fire. Add fuel to the fire, sorry. Okay? So that is everything that I have for you today. If you want, you can leave another comment in the comment section after I sign off, and I'll respond to you later. But thank you all for being with me here today on this fine Tuesday. I know that my live lessons on this channel have been less regular. I'm going to probably, when I get back to Canada, start doing 2 live lessons a week again on YouTube. I'd like to do that if I have time. So until I move back to Canada, there will be 1 lesson every Tuesday. And I will probably take a 1-week break from live lessons on the week that I'm actually moving back to Canada. So crazy times right now. I hope you're all doing well, though. I hope you're fired up about learning English. We have 1 more sentence from Hale, who says, "When I said that this is why father left you." Oh boy, yeah, that would probably cause the mom to be quite angry, I imagine. So that's a good one. Hale says, "When I said that is why father left you." Great. Okay, so thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I will, excuse me, I will see you all again next week or tomorrow on the English Language School Facebook page. I'll be giving another live lesson there. So take care, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.